Of all the great memes and clips on the internet, Fat Kid Falls Off Bike being, of course, the top of the list, really in the last 13 years this week, almost nothing created on this planet has surpassed in popularity or sheer hilarity an interview that took place on Ugandan television in December of 2012 on a show called Morning Breeze, the morning show of Kampala, Uganda, in which a trans activist, a woman who now identifies as a man, came on and was asked a series of questions by the host. And if you don't know what we're talking about, here is a 2-second clip that reveals the essence of the conversation.
Why are you gay?
Why are you gay? Let's play that again.
Why are you gay?
It's still the funniest thing that's ever been on the internet. But why is it funny? And why does almost everyone find it funny? Left, right, straight, gay. Well, because it's kind of the key question. And it's kind of the question that no one in the United States is allowed to ask. Why are you gay? And of course, it's being asked by an East African with kind of a quaint semi-colonial accent. And, conservatives can laugh at it. Liberals can laugh at it. Really, this is the kind of the only way a white liberal in the United States could ever laugh at a black person. If it's an African expressing non-PC views on homosexuality, why are you gay? And of course, people in the West laugh because the guy's an idiot. Why are you gay? We all know why you're gay. Why are you gay? Actually, we're laughing in part because we're not allowed to ask that question. It's settled, though no one's really explained what about it is settled. If you were to ask the average American, why are people gay? They would probably say, well, they're born that way. And then if you followed up with, well, how exactly does that work? They would have no idea and would tell you to shut up. Because again, like so many myths or things that we think we know, we don't really know. We can't really explain it. But we do know for dead certain we're not allowed to talk about it. So when some African morning show host in Uganda, wherever the hell that is, asks it out loud, we can't help but laugh nervously. Why are you gay? If you watch the whole interview, and actually it's worth watching because it's really revealing, both about Uganda and about the West, the first thing you notice is how polite everybody is. That tone, why are you gay, continued throughout the entire interview, which lasted over an hour. Just watched it. And the morning show host, whether you like him or dislike him, was just unfailingly polite to the guest, who was him or herself also unfailingly polite. And they were just sort of talking past each other. The trans activist couldn't really explain why he or she was gay or whether gay was different from trans or what was good about being gay. That was another question the host asked. Why would you want to be gay? And the trans activist just didn't really have an answer. What was amazing was the sweetness of it. It was not a hate crime, not even approaching a hate crime. No conversation like that could take place in the United States. But the host was coming from a position of total certainty that this is just weird and wrong. And that is the consensus in a lot of the world. And it's certainly, famously, the consensus in Uganda. And the consensus in the United States across both parties and pretty much the whole educated population is they're horrible because they think homosexuality is wrong. And we know this because about 10 years later in Uganda, the legislature passed almost unanimously with only, I think, one dissenting vote, a law against something called aggravated homosexuality. Aggravated homosexuality, as of 2023, is a death penalty offense in Uganda. What? Aggravated homosexuality? A death penalty offense? That's medieval. But how is it defined in Uganda? Well, if you read it, and you can because it's online, the Ugandan government defines aggravated homosexuality as gay rape of children, gay rape of the elderly who can't consent, people over 75, gay rape of people who are mentally deficient, and the intentional transmission of deadly diseases to another person. So it's rape and murder, effectively, are against the law. In fact, capital crimes in Uganda. It's a little different than advertised, but you would never know it because the entire American political class erupted as one when this law passed in East Africa, thousands of miles away, with a non-relevant trading partner with no real military. In other words, there's no actual reason to care about what Uganda does, but everyone here did care, bipartisanly. And we're actually not going to expect you to take our word for it. We're going to go right to the CIA for the answer, meaning Wikipedia. This is the Wikipedia description of the response. President Joe Biden weighed in. This was 2 years ago. This is 2023. President Joe Biden condemned the law, calling it, quote, a tragic violation of universal human rights, and, quote, the latest development in an alarming trend of human rights abuses and corruption in Uganda. Corruption. So here, the Ugandans had the temerity to exercise a democratic process using a legislature elected by the people of Uganda to pass a law almost unanimously with one dissenting vote. And that's corruption. It's almost as corrupt as the anti-gay marriage initiative in California that voters passed, but judges wisely struck down in the name of democracy. Okay, so that was Biden's response. But it wasn't just Biden. Here's Senator Ted Cruz, the self-described conservative from Texas. Here's what he said. He tweeted this. He put this in writing, as he so often does. And we're quoting, any law criminalizing homosexuality or imposing the death penalty for, quote, aggravated homosexuality is grotesque and an abomination. All civilized nations should join together in condemning this human rights abuse. So it's uncivilized to penalize gay rape or the intentional transmission of a deadly disease. That's uncivilized. Seems kind of civilized. But at the time, nobody agreed. This was grotesque, the kind of thing that only Africans would do. It's one step up from cannibalism. Can you believe it? Penalizing gay rape and the intentional transmission of AIDS. What do they think of next? We'll throw you in a stew pot. Savages. You'll notice that Uncle Ted called it an abomination, and the Anglican Communion agreed. Here's Justin Welby, the Archbishop of Canterbury, the leader of the rapidly dying Anglican Communion, which would include the Episcopal Church of the United States, the State Church of England. He wrote to the Archbishop of Uganda, Christian brother, to express his, quote, grief and dismay at the Church of Uganda's support for the Anti-Homosexuality Act. The head of the Church of England was filled with grief at the thought that rape would be banned and the intentional transmission of AIDS, et cetera, et cetera. But it didn't stop with expressions of grief and condemnation and tweets from Ted Cruz. No, it got right to the hard stuff, to the things that matter, meaning money and foreign aid. Here's the World Bank. Immediately, the World Bank swings into action. The World Bank announced it would halt lending to Uganda in response to the new law. No more lending. No more money for you. We're cutting you off. The financial institution noted that the act, quote, fundamentally contradicts the World Bank Group's values. Ooh, what are the World Bank's values? That'd be interesting to know. You know, in a sane country, contradicting the World Bank's, quote, values would be a sign of virtue, probably. Probably get a merit badge for that. But the World Bank was outraged. They know sin when they see it. Banning gay rape, we'll tolerate a lot, but not that. And then finally, Joe Biden, in October of 2023, spun fully into a frenzy at this point, watching taking the lead of the World Bank, announced that Uganda would be expelled from the group of sub-Saharan African countries that benefit from tax breaks under the U.S. African Growth and Opportunity Act, AGOA, because of the country's, quote, gross violations of internationally recognized human rights, which violate the AGOA eligibility criteria. So that was 2023. So bottom line, no more money for you. What happened next? Well, Ugandans starved. Next year there was a famine. I mean, not to laugh at famine, but it's almost unbelievable. So you ban gay rape of children and the elderly and the mentally disabled, and we're going to starve you out. And boy, did they. The United States shut it down. International aid institutions followed suit. And the next year, Uganda had a famine that is still ongoing. 50% of children in Uganda today suffer of the symptoms of malnutrition, stunted growth, anemia. 50%, half of all Ugandan kids are starving. And of course, Uganda's never been a rich country. It's had a lot of turmoil. Idi Amin was from there. Uganda has some problems for sure. But the year after the West collectively withdrew aid from Uganda, billions in aid, they have a famine, and it's all because they banned gay rape of children. Okay, so I guess the point here is our values are pretty clear. We're for this, and we're totally against questioning it. And if you do, we will hurt you. So what is that? Why are you gay? Maybe that's a question worth asking. But of course, nobody has. And then you wake up one morning and you realize that supporting homosexuality, which is very different from like not hating gays. No one should hate gays. And most Americans don't hate gays. In fact, when was the last time you met an American who did hate gays? I don't know I ever have, at least in the past 30 years. No one hates gays. You know a million gays, and some of them are awesome people. Work for you or your friends or whatever. It's not about hating gays. It's about being forced to say this is an affirmative good. And if you disagree with that, then you are affirmatively bad, and we're going to stoke a famine in your country to punish you. That's literally where we are. Well, Grand Canyon University is not like most American colleges. It focuses on the things that actually matter. It is not a ripoff. It is the real thing. It's private, affordable, Christian university located in the heart of Phoenix, one of the largest universities in the country, actually. At Grand Canyon University, education is more than academics. It is about opportunity, the chance for every student to live out the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Rights are not given by the government. They were bestowed at birth, at conception, by God. That's just a fact. And Grand Canyon University is not going to lie to your kids and claim otherwise. It tells the truth. So you're thinking, a quality education is rare, so this probably costs a fortune. Colleges constantly jack up their costs. They probably do the same. Well, they don't, actually. GCU has maintained the same tuition for 17 straight years. They're not in education to get rich at the expense of students. The whole thing is actually about learning. How refreshing. With flexible online classes, hybrid learning options, GCU offers 340 academic programs. Students benefit from a collaborative learning environment, dedicated faculty, personalized support to help them achieve their goals. The pursuit to serve is yours. Let it flourish. Find your purpose at Grand Canyon University, private, Christian, affordable. gcu.edu. Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. We hope you'll subscribe to it. And by the way, you can hit the little bell on there and get notifications every time we produce a video. We hope you'll do that also.